member for Winnipeg Centre.
My friends, I come here as an Indigenous person and as a Canadian, someone who believes in the goodness of people, especially when you can get them away from the internet. This is a great day where we have seen our Prime Minister make an announcement on Indigenous rights and about self-determination of Indigenous peoples within Canada. Over the past 2 years, we have seen a tragic chain of events which has demonstrated the divide that exists within our nation. Racism does exist. It is an ugliness in the underbelly of our state. One of our responsibilities is to live together in a good way. There is, though, a divide in places like Battleford. Battleford is representative of what goes on in our nation. I hear it from my relations and cousins who see racism in the racism of lower expectations in education systems and in schools when we tell children they're not suited for that type of work or nor that course. And you can't do that. We see the racism in child services, the racism in healthcare services, when even my father could not obtain cancer care when he was dying from lung cancer. Or racism when people go shopping in malls and are followed around. Or racism when we have interactions with the police and carding. Do we always trust the police? And many do not in our society. Battleford, though, represents a chance for us to look within ourselves and ask what type of nation do we desire for ourselves and especially our children. We can choose to be consumed by hate, by division, by rage. But if we have the courage to extend our hand, we will gain so much more. On Sunday, I said, I feel sorry for the Stanley family. Many may express disbelief. Some have said I have betrayed my people, that I am a traitor, that I should die. The taking of a life is wrong, either accidentally or purposefully. Mr. Stanley will need to live with that for the rest of his life. He took a life, and his life is forever changed. If it was myself, my conscience would weigh heavily, and I feel sorry for that situation. A young man has lost his life, and I feel the greatest and deepest sorrow for the Baptiste, Boucher, and Watani families. The dreams of a young man are gone forever. All the dreams of his family for his future are gone. He was a young man full of hope. He cared about his friends. He loved his mother and his uncle, his sister. He had a great potential to make a positive contribution to his community. A man that should not have died. A man that does deserve justice. In January and February of 2017, I walked on the traditional territories of 41 First Nations from Battleford to Winnipeg. I walked many, many miles. And I talked to many, many people. The land I walked on had seen the feet of my ancestors, land that was full of the spirit of my people. It also contained the spirits of others, farmers who have tilled the soil for over 100 years. I met with farmers and heard about their concerns in places like Cochin, Shellbrook, Prince Albert, Weldon, Melfort, Humboldt, Munster, Melville, Esterhazy, Fort Capel. I heard about their love of the land, how they worked hard, about their dreams and their needs. As Indigenous people, we do not live here by ourselves. We live side by side with others. They will not be leaving anytime soon. We signed treaty, such as in 1817, when Lord Selkirk and Chief Pegwist worked together to save the Selkirk settlers who had arrived in Red River near Winnipeg from minus 40-degree weather, feeding them, clothing them, housing them, looking after them, caring for them. I was told by an elder, Winston Watney, that if you cry, your children will die. I remember hearing him by listening to a cassette tape where he sang those words as my mother drove her car across the prairies coming from Calgary, where she could not find work, and where we could no longer afford an apartment, where we were now living in a car from May until October, and we arrived at a powwow in Battleford, the traditional territory of my people. And we bought and met Winston, and we bought his cassette, and I listened to those words and that song, See the Arrow. And that vision is engraved in my memory. It is the motto that I try to use with my children, to always keep a smile on my face, to always be happy, but to face reality nonetheless. A young man who died, pun, is a representative of many in this country. His story talks of the ills of our society, a justice system which is broken. From his needless death comes a chance at reform, of building a better and more inclusive structure of the state. My message is, if we let the rage consume, can we have the future we need? If we yell, will the people listen to us, or will they tune us out? For once we have salted the earth, will we be able to feed our children? I call upon leaders in our heartland, in all municipalities across this country, in churches, in communities, and in First Nations, to extend a warm hand of reconciliation, to take the time to meet together, to learn how we can work together. You will never convince a man of your point through rage. How many municipalities have met on a regular basis with First Nations chiefs and councils? Not very many. There are some, but not enough. How many have common projects together, where they work together on things of local importance? How many First Nations invite local municipal leaders and provincial leaders to their community and band meetings, or even to celebrations? What is our common projects at the local level? The new Premier of Saskatchewan has offered many solutions. What role can we all play to build the bridges to ensure that justice and the rule of law are paramount, to ensure that we live together in a good way? It is easy to attack, to fight, but is that the legacy we need in our society? To church leaders and religious leaders, we need to find a way to start conversations in our parishes, in our churches. We need to attend the Sundance, to see and to understand Indigenous peoples. We need to attend the churches so we may understand other people's perspective. And we need to even attend mosques to understand all perspectives that make up this great nation. In 1994, I was in South Africa. And as a young man, I had the chance to hear up close the great work of Mandela during the first free and fair elections of South Africa. I heard him speak. He put aside division and the rage that he had and worked with those who had stolen decades of his life. He wanted a better future, and I'm certain that the imperfect justice system will move forward even tomorrow. But we must find that common ground. The question should not only be about obtaining justice for a young man, but how to prevent this from occurring in the future. How do we create a society where people do not feel they need to reach for a gun because they feel the state has been absent? We do not live in a lawless society. We live here with our values, our common values, but we just need to find a way of expressing so we can both understand those values. To the leaders of all communities and those people, especially online, how do we create a society where all citizens have equal opportunity? In closing, I have a challenge. Invite someone from outside of your regular community and network over for a meal, someone who you would not normally do so. Make it a meal of reconciliation, break bread together, learn, and especially extend that hand of reconciliation, which we need so much in this time. Thank you.
Questions and comments?